What if you've been walking with Jesus this whole time? You just didn't realize it was him. Let's walk with our homeboys in Luke 24. All right, so boom. It is the third day after Jesus' death, and ain't no fireworks, no to-die moment, no grand comeback. Just our homegirls, Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and Mary, the mother of James, in verse 6, running back to Jerusalem saying, he's not here, he is risen. But of course, friend, folks ain't believing it. So in verse 13, two of our homeboys, Cleopas and his friend, are walking to a village called Emmaus, about 7 or so miles from Jerusalem. And friend, they are venting. They're talking about everything that went down, how tired they were, how disappointed they are, and how confused this whole situation makes them. And verse 15 says, while they were talking and discussing, this guy came near and began to walk with them. Verse 16 says they were kept from recognizing him. Because friends, sometimes grief can distort our vision. So in verse 17, this man says, what are y'all discussing as y'all walk along? And Cleopas and his homeboy look at him like, bro, have you been living under a rock or something? You're the only person in Jerusalem who don't know what just happened. And they start running it down. In verse 19, they explain that Jesus of Nazareth, the prophet, a powerful in word and good deed before God and all the people, that the chief priests and our rulers handed him over to be sentenced to death. And they crucified him. But in the midst of everything, they say, we had hope that he was the one who would redeem Israel. Translation. When Jesus died, their hope died too. And in that moment, they weren't just walking away from Jerusalem, they were walking away from the promise, away from the purpose, away from everything that they had prayed for, because to them, it was now gone. Now, friend, this man lets them talk and talk and talk and talk. And then in verse 25, he checks them saying, how foolish you are, and how slow to believe all the prophets have spoken. Beginning with Moses and all of the prophets, he explained to them what was said in all the scriptures concerning himself. Because sometimes God has to reread us our own Bible, because pain will make us forget the promise that was already said. After he checks them, then they finally reach the village, and Cleopas and his homeboys say, well, don't leave. Stay for the evening. And then everything started to shift in verse 30. It says, when he was at the table with them, he took bread, gave thanks, broke it, and gave it to them. And I know that sounds familiar. Then boom, their eyes were opened up, and they recognized that it was Jesus, and he disappeared from their sight. No smoke, no thunder, no special effects. Translation. Sometimes it's not a miracle we need. We need to just recognize that Mr. Jesus was walking with us all along. Because sometimes God will use the same road that we walk down with doubt, with fear, with no understanding, to U-turn our faith back on track. Sometimes we think God is silent when he's really walking beside us. Because he's still listening. He's still in our waiting. He's still in our doubt. He's still in our walking. But he's just waiting for us to re-invite him in.